There is a photograph almost everyone has seen. An airliner floating in a freezing river, in the middle of New York City, with dozens of people standing on its wings in the water, waiting to be rescued. Every single one of them lived. The whole thing, from the first sign of trouble to the aircraft in the water, took about 3.5 minutes. U.S. Airways Flight 1549 took off from LaGuardia Airport on the 15th of January, 2009, heading for Charlotte. On board were 155 people. In the cockpit were Captain Chesley Sullenberger, known as Sully, and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles. It was a completely routine departure. 90 seconds after takeoff, climbing through about 2,800 feet, the crew saw a line of large birds fill the windscreen. There was no time to avoid them. The aircraft flew straight into a flock of Canada geese. Birds went into both engines. In the cabin, passengers heard loud bangs and saw flames. In the cockpit, the crew felt the thrust die away on both sides at once. And then came a sound that terrifies every pilot. The engine spooling down into near silence. They were now a heavy jet, low over one of the most crowded cities on Earth, with almost no thrust. Sully took control. Skiles began working through the engine restart checklist, a procedure designed for high altitude, not for a machine gliding down over Manhattan with seconds to spare. Air traffic control offered them a return to LaGuardia. Then they offered an airport in New Jersey, Teterboro. Sully looked at the situation the way only experience allows. He was too low, too slow, and too far. Trying to reach a runway and missing it would mean coming down on streets and buildings full of people. In his mind, the numbers did not work. And so he made a decision that no simulator had ever asked him to make. He keyed the microphone and said, calmly, "We're going to be in the Hudson." The river was the only place long enough, flat enough, and empty enough to put the aircraft down without killing people on the ground. But landing a jet on water is one of the most dangerous things a pilot can attempt. Come down too steep, and it breaks apart. Drop a wing, and it cartwheels. Sully had to hold the nose at exactly the right angle, wings perfectly level, and fly a powerless 80-ton aircraft onto the surface of a moving river. In the cabin, the crew shouted the only instruction that mattered. Brace for impact. He brought it down tail first, wings level, and the aircraft hit the water hard but flat, and stayed in one piece. Almost immediately it began to flood from the rear. And here is the part people forget. What happened next was not luck. The 3 flight attendants ran a textbook evacuation, moving people forward as the back of the cabin filled with icy water. Passengers climbed out onto the wings and into the emergency rafts. The water was near freezing. Within minutes, the first commuter ferries were already turning toward the aircraft, their crews pulling people aboard. Sully walked the length of the flooding cabin twice, checking every row, making sure no one was left behind, before he stepped off himself. Every one of the 155 people on board survived. A few injuries, one serious. Nothing worse. The investigators studied it for months. They ran the scenario again and again in simulators, trying to see if the aircraft really could have made it back to a runway. In the simulator, with pilots who knew exactly what was coming, sometimes it worked. But when they added a realistic delay, the time a human being actually needs to understand that both engines are gone and to decide what to do, every attempt to reach a runway ended in a crash. Sully had been right. The Hudson was the only survivable option, and he found it in less than a minute. It is remembered now as the miracle on the Hudson. But the people who study it tend to avoid that word. Because a miracle is something you cannot explain. This was the opposite. This was 2 pilots and 3 cabin crew doing exactly what training, experience, and a very cool head prepare you for, on the worst day of their careers, and getting every single person home.